What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for May 11th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Saturday edition of the podcast. Coming at you a little early today, probably the earliest I've ever recorded, 4:50 a.m., but heading down to the Outer Banks here in about an hour or so, but wanted to get the podcast out. And a quick housekeeping note, like I said, that next week, it'll probably be more on a weekend schedule, even though today is a weekday schedule. So best way to stay in the loop is subscribe to the social media, Jimbo_Mont at Twitter and TikTok, Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Jimbo_Mont. That way you can just stay in the loop. Let's get those subscribers up. Tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word. Let's grow this thing. All the information you need for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame is in the description. Ticket information as well as the induction list. And if you are interested in being a sponsor or have anything for the silent auction, hit me up for that. We're still looking for things, and they do not need to be a sports related per se. It can be experiences. I'm working on something possibly. My buddy owns a couple of restaurants in East Falls, so I'm looking to possibly put together like an East Falls experience package. But if you own a golf course or something like that or know someone, definitely hit me up and we can work something out for that. All right, so let's start as always with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, would the Eagles have won the Super Bowl if Chip Kelly didn't get rid of Deshaun and LaShawn? And 80% of you said no. And in going back and reading some of the comments, I think that this one was on me. I didn't necessarily word the question the right way because I had a lot of people say, no way Chip Kelly was ever going to win a Super Bowl, blah, 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 blah. And you're absolutely right. I meant to say, to me, Chip Kelly set the chain of the events that set the chain reaction to the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, because it took Howie Roseman kind of getting pushed in with, as they said, the marketing team in the whole other building, not being allowed to go to practice to kind of motivate him. They had to work hard to undo those moves, and by undoing those moves, that in turn is what allowed them to really get those guys in to win the Super Bowl. So that's kind of what I meant. I meant, would they have won the Super Bowl if they kept Deshaun and LaShawn and had like Doug Peterson as the coach and either Nick Foles, and I guess it would have been Nick Foles and Mike Vick, and they would have never gone down like the Bradford rabbit hole, which ultimately led to Carson Wentz, which ultimately led to Nick Foles coming back. So it's a very convoluted and complicated situation, but thanks as always for participating in the question today. And again, that's on me for not, I guess, being clear on that. But if you want to give me your comments on that, like if it was Doug Peterson with Deshaun, LaShawn, and Nick Foles before all of that, would the Eagles have won the Super Bowl? But let's, as always, thanks for participating in the question of the day. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. But let's stick with the Eagles for a little bit here, and a couple more just final pieces, I guess, on the podcast that they did. And I wanted to mention some of these yesterday, but I spent way too much time, or way more, I shouldn't say too much, more time than what I wanted. But just going to some of his personnel moves and the fact that he wanted to trade BG, and Jeffrey Lurie stepped in and vetoed it. And he also regretted the whole LaShawn trade, Jeffrey Lurie did. But there were a couple times they made it seem like Chip Kelly kind of was like, well, no, this is my job. You told me to do a job, back out. And I think what that did was it also changed Jeffrey Lurie and how he kind of perceives and does business. But it's just crazy to think that BG was almost out of here. And then the fact that I believe it was Chip Kelly who gave him the extension then that kind of kept him here from leaving as a free agent. So just one of those interesting tidbits that he basically, it's like Chip Kelly held the Eagles hostage during that time frame, which is absolutely ridiculous. And then the other funny story was just the whole Kiko Alonso. I can't get over that. Like, Shady actually thought Drew Rosenhaus was bullshitting him and was just like, who? and he said he Googled him and looked it up and just started laughing. And then the story was when he met with Rex Ryan, that Rex Ryan said it was the quickest trade he ever made, and that he was just like, Kiko Alonso and they're like, no, that's it. And he was like, sold. And to me, that just goes as a testament to just kind of gives credence and credit to what they were saying, because he was that uncomfortable around those guys that he was willing to trade him. And I know Kiko was his guy, apparently, but I don't know. But that Kiko Alonso move ultimately helped lead to the Eagles getting the draft pick that led to Carson Wentz, that led to the Super Bowl. So that's where it's like, do they win the Super Bowl without Chip Kelly making those moves? It's a mess, but it all worked out well for the end for the Eagles. Not so much for, I guess, Deshaun and Shady. Would have loved for them to have been here the whole time, but hey, that's what happens. All right, enough of that. We'll move on. I really do, though. I said this yesterday. I hope that they are going to continue to put out episodes, because the chemistry the two of them had were good. And I would love to see some of those guys from those teams come on and just talk similar to the way like Jason and Travis Kelce do, and just kind of reminisce with their teammates, because I thought it was cool. And I would love to see, even though I think he's still playing somehow at age 56. Kidding, he's not 56, but Jason Peters seems like he would be a good interview on there. All right, Phillies starting another winning streak here. First game in Miami, they took 8-2, and man, the Marlins are just a bad team, and like fundamentally bad. Not like they're just not there. They don't have talented players. Like I feel like my son's coach pitch team plays better solid fundamentals than what I saw the Marlins play yesterday. Just misplaying fly balls, not running out ground balls, like just loafing it. Like it's like they're moving in slow motion. So 8-2 Phillies won. My boy Ranger was outstanding. 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, 0 runs. And then Soto gave up 2, and I don't know what's going on with Soto. Like, I feel like every time he comes in, he gives up and gets into some trouble somehow. And I don't know if it's the situations that they're putting him in or what. But Castellanos, hopefully this is a sign of things to come. He went deep. My boy Johan, I'm telling you, with the 20-inch pythons, he went deep. A good win for the Phils. Ranger looked good. They're back at it today. I believe today is Tawan Walker, if I'm not mistaken. It's either Walker or Sanchez, but I believe Walker comes before Sanchez. I think they switched it that way. Either way, back in action today at 4, looking to take two in a row from the Marlins. All right, some Sixers talk, and I'm struggling with this one, and I've seen it 2 different places now, and I'm on a text thread with guys from my fantasy football league. Won't mention any names or anything, but one of my boys is from New York, so huge Knicks fan. We've been talking trash. We're pretty well represented with different teams on there, but he's been talking trash, and then one of my Philly guys was like, yeah, I hate the Sixers, like, they're a terrible organization, blah, blah, blah. Go Knicks. And that kind of struck me as odd that as a Philadelphia fan, you're rooting for a New York team. And I made the comment back on the thread. I'm like, I just can't do it. I feel like for me, New York is one of the, like, especially the Knicks. Like, I can't bring myself to root for even the Jets. Like, I couldn't root for the Jets. The possible exception would be the Nets, but I don't know. It's just, it rubbed me the wrong way that he was just like, oh, yeah, they play the right way. And like, you can think that, but like they're a good team, and if they were in Philly, this would be great. But man, to say I'm actively rooting for the Knicks as a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I don't know. That really, really rubbed me the wrong way. And it kind of tied it to, well, the Villanova guy. And I'm like, yeah, but for me as a Temple guy, like Jalen Brunson, like I hate Rick Brunson now because of just this playoff series and the fact, and I mean, it goes back deeper than that. I feel Jalen should have gone to Temple. But I think if I remember correctly, and it could be speaking out of turn, this is me just everything running together. But I do think that Rick got done dirty by either Temple or I think it was Temple, or he might have gotten it. Like there was a one. Or no, that was Nate Blackwell that got into some trouble. But I think the university did him dirty, and it might have been Fran Dunphy or something, and that really is what led to jail. Either way. But my boy from New York's like, I hated him when he spurned Temple, but I'm so glad he's on my team now. But that kind of leads me into this whole discussion, though, that my one boy was like, yep, I'm actively, and I'm like, I cannot do that. Like, I wouldn't actively root for the Giants if the Eagles lost. I wouldn't actively root for the Mets if the Phillies lost. So to actively root for the Knicks, man, like, I can't do it. There's just something about, and I'm in a different boat probably than most, because the Cowboys are the most hated rivals of the Eagles by the majority of the fan base, if not 95, 98, 99%. But mine is the Giants. I just feel like I like the Philly-New York rivalry because of the proximity and everything like that. And I cannot actively root for a New York team. I'm so glad to see that. I was disappointed I had the Pacers -7 and the over. But Pacers won by 5, so I lost both of those bets. However, I did hit a same game parlay that kind of evened things out. But that leads to today's question of the day. And we know specific teams, like obviously for the Eagles it's the Cowboys, for the Phillies it's the Braves, more so recently. But what city is Philly's biggest rival if you take a look at all sports? And that, like, all 4 majors, you can throw college in there if you want. But which one of our cities in close proximity is Philadelphia's biggest sports rival? Is it New York, Boston, D.C., or Pittsburgh? Let me know what you think. 267-495-8531 get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. Philly sports biggest rival: New York, Boston, D.C., or Pittsburgh? Let me know what you think. And this one's tough for me because I think you could go D.C. or New York because of the majority, like so many of the teams play within the same division. But I think for me, I think you got to go Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh, and I don't know, I'm just going to throw it out there. I think Pittsburgh has an inferiority complex when it comes to Philadelphia as a city. However, I will say there is, coming from my point of view, there is a little bit of that jealousy of Pittsburgh when it comes to sports championships, whether it be the Penguins or the Steelers. Pirates, you can forget about. But so it'd be tough for me to get. To me, I'm torn between Pittsburgh and New York, but certainly could see the case for Boston. Certainly could see the case for DC as well. So let me know what you think. 267-495-8531 get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. What is Philly sports' biggest city rival? New York, Boston, DC, or Pittsburgh? All right, a little bit of hockey news. The Phantoms look to even up their playoff series tonight against the Hershey Bears and stave off elimination. I believe that game is tonight, hoping to force a Game 5 early next week. Union also are in action in Chester tonight against Orlando City. Looking forward to that. They made big news the other day when they signed Caven Sullivan, the 14-year-old, to a contract, and he's expected to play. And if he makes his debut before July 29th, he'll be the youngest player ever in MLS history, which is kind of cool. They have him for the next 4 years, basically, until he turns 18, and then he's getting transferred over to, I believe it's Manchester. It's either Manchester United or Manchester City, and then the Union get, I think, like $5 million or something ridiculous like that. But pretty cool story. He's not playing tonight, but they fully intend on letting him play and using him throughout the next 3.5 years or so. So pretty cool story there. We'll keep you posted as more develops on that. All right, today we're going to go back to 1980. And on this day in 1980, the Sixers even up the NBA Finals at 2 games apiece with a 105-102 win over the Lakers. Darryl Dawkins led the Sixers with 26. Chocolate Thunder, which obviously he's right up there. He could be a number 1 seed in our nickname tournament that's coming in later this summer, so stay tuned for that. If you want to give me a little feedback on that, what do you think? Is Chocolate Thunder number 1 seed in all-time Philadelphia nicknames? I think it's definitely a top 10 nickname of all time. Anyway, Lionel Simmons had 18 points, 13 rebounds for the Sixers. Magic Johnson had 28 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds. Kareem had 23 and 11. But the story of the day was Dr. J. And I did not mean to rhyme there, but it just goes perfectly. And Dr. J's nickname is up there too. He's definitely a dark horse contender to take this title. But Dr. J on this day made one of the most memorable plays in NBA history. Definitely probably one of the most memorable plays in finals history. And basically, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but it was basically his reverse behind the backboard layup to avoid the block by Kareem. Changed direction in midair. Not sure how he did any of this while he was in midair, but go watch the play. If you just look up Dr. J's reverse layup in the finals, and you'll find it. Just spectacular. Unfortunately, the Sixers will go on to lose the next 2 games of this series. Quick side bonus tidbit fact. In this series, the night before, in Game 3, Dr. J hit the first ever NBA Finals 3-pointer in NBA history. And it happened to be, it was very early stages of the 3-point line. It was the only 3-pointer hit that entire series. So there's a little bonus tidbit for you. So the Sixers just lost. Magic Johnson was outstanding during this series. Rookie Magic Johnson. Remember, this is a series he started at center. The following year, the Sixers blew that 3-1 lead in the Eastern Conference Finals, lost to the Celtics, and that would have been the year. They would have likely beat the Rockets, who were led by future Sixer Moses Malone. 82, they went back to the finals, lost to the Lakers, which led the Sixers to acquiring Moses Malone. But on this day, back in 1980, it was the Sixers beating the Lakers 105-102 to even up the NBA Finals at 2 games apiece. Lakers would go on to win the next 2 games to win the championship, though. And then finally today, it's a family affair. And very apropos, since I'm going to go hang out with family for the next week. But today we're spotlighting Jrue Holiday, guard for the Sixers. He was a first-round pick, number 17 overall in, I believe it was 2009. But he turned out to be a pretty solid player career-wise, but even for the Sixers, which gives us hope because we have the number 16 pick this year. So maybe we can pull some of that magic in the draft. Overall, he spent 4 seasons in Philly. Averaged a little over 13 points, 5.8 assists per game. Was an all-star in 2013. His final season was the expectations for the Sixers were high. That was the whole Andrew Bynum fiasco, I guess is the only way to describe that. But Bynum didn't play, but Jrue was outstanding. He ended up being traded on draft day in 2013 for the number 6 overall pick to the New Orleans Pelicans at the time, and that pick was used to Nerlens Noel and officially kicked off the process era for the Sixers. Jrue is still playing. He's is an NBA champion. He's playing for the Celtics this year, looking to win another championship. He is a gold medalist, and like I said, one of those solid players, good defender. He was the piece that the Sixers were supposed to build around, and then because of the Bynum fiasco somehow, and then I forget, it was very complicated, and then all of a sudden Sam Hinkie came in and just started trading everybody, and here we are now 11, 12 years later, still looking to get out of the second round, but I digress. Now, where does the family affair come in? His brothers Justin and Aaron are both in the NBA currently. Justin plays for the Nuggets. Aaron plays for the Rockets. But it doesn't stop there. His sister Lauren played and was a good player at UCLA for their women's team. And he's even married into an athletic family. His wife, Lauren Cheney, is a former player for the U.S. women's national soccer team. One of the best to ever do it there as well. So Jrue Holiday is today's It's a Family Affair spotlight. 4 years with the Sixers, made an all-star, but essentially he was the guy that was traded to kick off the process. So there's his legend in Philadelphia sports history. Is he's the guy that was traded for Nerlens Noel. That really, to me, that trade and that draft symbolized the entire start of how we got to where we are now. But I still refuse to root for the Knicks, damn it. Also, check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences. It's getting hilarious. It's so good. Very entertaining. So go check them out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. They gave me a shout out the other day, and apparently I am a less delusional version of Topher Pete, which is pretty cool. But Jrue Holiday is today's Family Affair spotlight. On this day back in 1980, Sixers evened up their NBA Finals series against the Lakers at 2 games apiece with a 105-102 victory. Dr. J with one of the all-time greatest highlight reel plays in NBA history. If you haven't done so, look it up. It's just a thing of beauty. Be sure to answer the question of the day, 267-495-8531. Get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. What is Philadelphia's biggest city rival? Is it New York, Boston, D.C., or Pittsburgh? I'm telling you, I think I got to lean toward Pittsburgh. But let me know what you think. Go to phillygoat.com as well. They have a new, speaking of Sixers and just disappointment, a new Angry Sixers fan shirt. If you remember, they did the Angry Eagles fan from Olivia Smith Designs. She does a phenomenal job. It's very similar. Go check them out. It's a great shirt. The Angry Sixers fan at Philly Goat. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. Be sure to get your London Series Phillies gear as well. And use that promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off. All right, let me know what you're thinking, though. Philly's biggest rival. I got to go Pittsburgh, but let me know where you're going with it. And let me know your final thoughts, too, on the Deshaun Jackson, Shady McCoy thing, because, like I said, there's a lot of good tidbits that came out of there, and give me your thoughts on that as well. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Saturday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.